Hello everybody. The latest update added quite possibly my brand new favourite item in the whole game, the Tingle node. If you're able to get past the absolutely wretched name this thing has, then you got yourself one of the most useful things ever devised. The last few days I've been messing around with it to see what applications I could come up with, and today I'm going to show you exactly what I found. From ways to make your worlds a little bit more bearable, to an unethical but incredibly efficient way to deal with bees, both your own and the monarchs. Let's get stuck in. First, a quick rundown of what the Tingle node actually is. I already mentioned this in my update spotlight video, but I'll go over it again briefly in case you don't want to watch that. The Tingle node is a deployable fence-like wall structure that can link with others to create an electric fence. Any mob that touches the fence or even the post will be stunned and sent running the opposite way they came. This applies to pretty much every mob in the game. Only exceptions are boss enemies, as they'll still get the stun but ignore the fence's blocking properties, and any enemy immune to stun/electrocution overall. This includes WX78, and any character wearing lightning insulating clothes like an umbrella. Keep this in mind, this is very useful if you don't want to constantly be zapped by your own fence. The fence won't hurt you or even any mob it touches, so don't worry about getting zapped yourself too much. To make the fence, you need 6 moon glass and 6 scrap. The moon glass itself is easy to get in abundance thanks to its like 40 methods of renewability, but the scrap can be difficult to accumulate, especially early game. Unless you're playing as a certain character I'll go over soon. You get 4 posts per craft to play with, and breaking one will give back 1 glass and 1 scrap, meaning you'll lose out on 2 glass and scrap if you break all 4 of them. You can deconstruct them with a deconstruction staff, but only if you haven't placed them yet, getting you 2 scrap and glass back per post instead, letting you gain 2 extra scrap if you want to waste all 4 uses of your staff like this. Anyway, the blueprint itself is not prototyped anywhere and is not known by default. To get the blueprint, you'll need to rummage around in the scrap pile found in the junkyard mini biome, but only if the scrappy werepig is present or recently defeated. This does mean you have to kill the nightmare werepig and wait around 10 days for him to move topside. You don't have to kill the scrappy werepig to get the blueprint, just rummaging around in the pile is good enough. Might take a few tries searching before you get it, but wait around 2 minutes between searches and you'll get it guaranteed after at least 10 searches. You'll know if it's still in the pile because you'll see it sticking out of the top right here. So, that's how the Tingle node works and how you get it. Let's now, in no particular order, go over the actual practical applications of the thing, shall we? First of all, it's a fence. Shocking, I know. That too. But it's a fence that keeps out nearly everything except bosses and rock lobsters. So the first application of this thing is a fence, but an unbreakable one at that. Typically, using walls to block off enemies and protect your base was never really something you could do, since all walls were destructible and a lot of enemies would just attack them on sight. If you got the scrap to spend, you can replace pretty much any farm that relied on walls in the past with these shocking fences. But due to their indestructibility, except against bosses, we can also set these up around spider dens, ponds, hound mounds, and even use them against flying enemies like bees and basilisks, things that before couldn't really be walled off. The fence will, to the best of its ability, barring no glitchy physics, will make sure that nothing will ever cross its perimeter. So if, for example, you made the common mistake of basing way too close to ponds and hate having to deal with those frogs attacking your base, a couple of fences later, that mistake is no longer. And enemies won't even try to pathfind around the fence either, they will try to walk right through it, which means they will pretty much always get electrocuted. Base too close to a sinkhole? Hate being attacked by those bats every night? Fence them off with the electric fence. Something to keep in mind for the rest of the video though, is that you have to be a bit careful, since if you are close enough to an enemy on the other side of an electric fence, they might still get a bite off on you if you're a bit too close. So make sure to give your fence setups ample room when we go further down this list. So now that we know it's an unbreachable defense, what situations would call for this? Well, besides keeping those horrible frogs at bay, you can use just 4 fences, 1 craft's worth, to make a hound panic room. That's it. I remember back in the day of early Don't Starve, you had to get a bunch of tooth traps and walls to make a hound panic room. But now you can make a perfectly 100% safe defense from all hounds with 4 Tingle nodes. No matter what, they will never get past the fence, and since you can cross the fence harmlessly at the cost of a little shock, you can come and go as you please. Once you're in here though, I hope you have a way of dealing with the hounds, since they're never gonna die if they keep running against the fence. You could make a break for it while they're panicking, I guess. The fact these function as unbreakable walls means you can also use them as an everlasting baited trap. Simply place a bit of pigskin in a small fenced off area and it will constantly draw in enemies to try and eat it, only for them to get scared, run away, and try to eat the food again, getting stuck in an infinite gluttony loop. Good if you don't want to deal with the hounds in combat and instead just want to run away. But what if you did have a way to deal with the hounds as some kind of ranged attacker, however? Maybe a character that uses automatic turrets, like Winona. It's no secret that Winona is going to massively benefit from these Tingle nodes, since the catapults cannot typically attack enemies that are right up against them. Surround a battalion of your catapults with a few Tingle nodes, and they are all but practically indestructible against all but the biggest of enemies. A setup like these can handle every hound wave pretty much forever. Just be careful to give defences a little bit of room around the catapults, because like I mentioned earlier, hounds can attack them if they're close enough. But if you set it up properly, you will literally never have to worry about hound waves ever again. But you could also use this for pigman farms, a spider farm, be careful of the queen since she will ignore the fence, you name it. Combine this with the everlasting bait trap I showed you with the hounds, and you have a way to corral spiders into one area, making it easy for you to bombard them all at once with your catapults. It's also good if you want to keep spiders away from your base without a huge perimeter of electric fences. These Tingle nodes solve the one weakness Winona's catapults have, and that is that they can easily be overwhelmed in melee combat. Another little weird thing I noticed during this though, if you attack a fence post, the catapults will relentlessly start attacking said fence post without damaging it. Maybe there's some use for this to create a permanent damage zone. I'm too stupid to figure that out though, that's up to you guys. But what if I told you Winona has yet another reason she's pretty much the best suited character for the Tingle nodes? Well, you know how to craft them, you need a lot of scrap, right? And scrap isn't the easiest thing to get since it requires a lot of rummaging around in the scrapyard or some post-rift content. Well, if you take her lunar perks and craft the doofy little helmet that comes with it, the cash boxes that you can find whilst wearing it will pretty much always give you scrap. Over time, you'll have more scrap than you know what to do with, and that means more Tingle nodes than you know what to do with. Superb. However, there is another range character in the game, good old Walter. With his slingshot, he's able to damage enemies from a range, but suffers a lot whenever he gets hit due to the long wind up the slingshot has, as well as his low HP and sanity loss on damage taken. So, if you'd set up a couple of fence post panic rooms in some key farming locations, congratulations, you can now take care of hound waves without risking dying at all. Or even farming pigmen at their own village. Or even entire beefalo herds, it's ridiculous. I was very scared recording this footage because it looked like they were going to glitch through the fence at any moment, but they, funnily enough, never did. If you're willing to front the pretty expensive cost to carry a few of these nodes around with you, or place them in opportune locations, you can have Walter be practically invincible in many combat encounters. How about we take a step back from combat for a brief second to look at something more resourceful. So earlier on, I mentioned that the electric fences are able to stun flying enemies, whereas in the past, stuff like bees could fly over walls if they were fully enclosed in them. I found a good use for this for quite possibly the most unethical bee farm ever. Now if you're like me, you have countless times done in the past the grave mistake of building your bee boxes way too close to your base, and, especially when playing Wormwood, have the heated bees flying into your base to attack you and your friends relentlessly during spring, and everyone gets really annoyed at you and calls you names. We've all been there, do not pretend. Well, if you wrap an electric fence around your bee boxes, and make sure there are plenty of flowers inside the perimeter, and none outside of it, bam! You've never got to worry about the bees flying into your base ever again. A simple application, but delightful. Just ignore the fact that bees are constantly electrocuting themselves, it builds character. Also, don't do what I did here, maybe make the perimeter a little bit bigger than I did. This also means that once you need to harvest the bee boxes, it's about 10 times easier too, since the bees that pop out of the hive to attack you when you steal their honey will easily be zapped by their prison if they try to chase you beyond it. And due to how creatures who are electrocuted are actually feared for a very short time, this also resets their aggro, meaning those angry bees will instantly be placated and get to work on getting more honey. So I think I just accidentally discovered a way to make beehives slightly more efficient. Harvest the bee boxes, the bees get angry, and then they immediately go to work. You're welcome, I guess? I couldn't mention bees without going over the cool bee queen strategy the Tingle nodes unlock, can I? I mentioned this already in the last video and it's a very popular thing, but essentially if you set up a nice mesh of electric fences around the bee queen hive before you start the fight, then the grumble bees that the bee queen summons during said fight will do pretty much nothing but bounce around the fences or be pushed outside of the fences. Normally the biggest threat the bee queen fight has is how you're having to constantly not only fight her, but her countless waves of angry bees that swarm you. With this setup, however, you can ensure you fight her one-on-one without having to worry about finding ways to take care of her minions. Way better than the old strategies of having to make like 40 bunny man houses. Just make sure you have insulating clothing on, since you will have to be moving across the fences a lot during the fight. How about another resourceful application? So you know vault goats? Typically you want to make sure the vault goats are electrocuted when you fight them, so you can get that lovely electric milk drop that they have. But sometimes it can be a bit annoying to electrocute them or even aggro them because they keep running away from you. Most of the time, people will aggro them with a ranged weapon like a boomerang or electrocute them right away with an electric weapon. But what if we want to skip that entirely? Simply build a little electric fence setup near your local vault goat herd, kite one of them into it, and there you have it. No ranged weapons or even electrical weapons needed at all. You can now get all the milk and horns you desire. Just, don't expect to fence these guys in with the Tingle nodes, however, since once they're electrocuted, vault goats are completely immune to all forms of electrical stuns, and that includes the fence. If you want your vault goat farms to be contained, you might need to rely on traditional walls for this one. Except when they're electrocuted, because the goats will obviously attack it. One thing I forgot to mention though, is that Tingle nodes can create electric fences through walls, so you could have a system where you turn a fence on or off to electrocute like a contained area. Speaking of farmable mobs, Splur Monkeys. Normally in the caves I burn their stupid little barrels to the ground, but people often tell me it's better to keep them around since they are an excellent source of beard hair, nightmare fuel, morsels, poop, and bananas. And wouldn't you know it, these guys are weak to electrical fences in both corporeal and nightmare form. You can either set up fences around each of their pods or do what I did here and make a cool little path that takes you right through the monkey mud biome like some kind of freakish subterranean zoo. You can even have your little path go around the banana trees if you so desire. And since the posts glow in the dark, you can kind of see where they lead you in the dark, it's very fun. This allows you to constantly travel through the early ruins in the mud biome without having to worry about the monkeys constantly harassing you or stealing stuff from Hutch, no matter the phase of the nightmare cycle. The Tingle nodes also work on powder monkeys, but I wouldn't use it on that island since the portal can just chuck them over the fence. Best to just blow up the dock underneath it like I always recommend. Oh, that also reminds me, I forgot to mention it earlier, but Tingle nodes can be placed on boats, but they cannot form any electrical connections whilst on a boat, making them completely useless. A shame really, would have been a superb way to deal with the monkey raids, but alas. And finally for this video, one of my absolute favourite uses for the Tingle nodes, making the Moonstone Event an absolute breeze. Normally this event has you fighting hordes and hordes of enemies to protect the Moonstone, or doing what everyone else typically does and have a wall of statues surrounding it instead. Both of those methods are very costly and rather annoying to pull off. But say you have the Tingle node unlocked, you can place just 4 of them around the Moonstone, set up the event, and bam! no mobs will ever cross that little barrier, letting you pretty much AFK the entire event, keeping everything safe, yourself included. Great source of werepick drops if you wish to fight them, and moon rocks if you don't. Love it. I always hated building the big stupid ring of statues in the past, so I'm glad this option exists. I did try to see if this works well for Varg farms too, but since the fence is constantly scaring the Varg, it never has the chance to spawn hound waves. I guess you can use it as a safe Varg pen if you don't want there to be hound waves. Maybe. Who knows, it's up to you. And that, everybody, is a few of the practical applications I found for the brand new Tingle nodes. Such an amazing item that I keep mentioning I really expected to be post-Rift, but nope, you can get them really early on if you kill the Nightmare Werepick. These things make a regular wall seem so useless in comparison. Maybe those ought to be buffed sometime soon. For now though, I'm gonna enjoy my big stupid zappy post with a dumb name with pride. I hope you all do the same. And I also hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any cool tricks or applications with these little Tingle nodes, then let me know down below. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video if you guys have any good ideas. For now though, I never want to say the word Tingle again. Cheers for watching everybody. Bye bye.